The movie I'll be talking about is the movie Crash that me and my partner Geraldine watched. And what subdisciplines of psychology are relevant to this movie? Explain. Social psychology plays a big factor in this movie because it has a lot of stereotypes, racism, discrimination, prejudice characteristics placed in the movie. In the movie, the black characters believed in how black people should stick together at all times and not turn their back on their race. The white officer had a discrimination towards black people because he was frustrated with how his father's health was not being carefully looked at by the doctor. He was frustrated with the lady, Shaniqua Johnson, because she could not help the officer, John Ryan, see what is actually wrong with his father's health issue. Officer John Ryan had another incident with the married black couple that had the same vehicle as the stolen car that was taken from the district attorney and his wife in the same night. He pulled the married black couple over and made them step out of the car to search them. The wife did not like the way she was being searched by Officer Ryan because he was touching her in areas where she felt very uncomfortable. The local grocery store man, Farhide, did not trust anyone besides his wife and a daughter. He felt like everyone was not likely to trust because of the break-ins he's had in the past. He bought a gun for protection, but it protected him from shooting an innocent little girl that was protecting her father from Farhad killing him. The bullets were purchased for the gun were blanks. Daniel Ruzez was a family guy that wanted a good life for his little girl. He protected her with this invincible necklace that had a meaningful story behind it. He was being discriminated by not just Farhad, but by Gina Cobbett because of the way he looked when he changed their locks after the car had been stolen. Jean Cobbett was an angry woman that was never happy with her life. She was never satisfied with how her life was going for the past 10 years. Trusting someone was her main problem because she wanted everything to go her way for once. What psychological theories are relevant to this movie? How do they or do they not explain the characters' behaviors? Aggression was used with Anthony and Peter were trying to steal the cars from people. For example, when they were trying to steal another black Lincoln from Cameron Thayer, but they all three ended up in a fight and being physical with handguns. Especially from stealing from another black man, because Anthony mentioned in the movie that he would never steal from a black person in his life. When Anthony noticed it was Cameron and that he was black, he did not have any other choice to go through with the process of stealing the car. But it only made Cameron mad because it was two black males trying to steal from him. Situational factor connects with aggression because there was a lot of frustration going on in the movie based upon culture status present in the movie. Feeling threatened by young officer Tom Hansen was trying to calm Cameron Thayer down when he got pulled over with Anthony in the car hiding. Hansen's convinced the others did not like Cameron was being treated by the officer Ryan in the beginning of the movie just because he was black. Officer Ryan provided help to Christine Thayer during trying to save her before her car exploded. At first, she did not want help from Officer Ryan because of what he did during the search, but she trusted him when he was not trying to leave her office. The fire started to spread. Officer Ryan knew he was in the wrong at the beginning of the movie, so he helped her to the best ability he could in order to save her life. How can characters' behaviors be explained in psychological terms? Detective Graham had memory loss and what family really means to him. During the scene when him and Rhea hooked up, she got mad at him on how he talked to his mother. She basically was telling him that respecting his mother was very important to do because that's what she did as a kid with her parents. She basically was telling him that respecting his mother was, although his mother had her own issues to deal with, finding her younger brother and bringing him home. She asked Graham to find his brother several times throughout the movie, but it was the least of his worries at that time until he got the call and realized that his brother had been shot and killed. Once Graham's mother reminded him on how she felt about losing her son, Graham realized that he could have saved his brother's life all along if he would have done what his mother said and found his little brother and brought him home. Thank you.
So, is the movie Crash a realistic depiction of memory loss? Why or why not? And the movie Crash is somewhat a realistic depiction of memory loss. There is one character in the movie who suffers from memory loss, which is the detective Graham Waters' mother, who appears to suffer from dementia. She forgets to buy groceries for her house, and she forgets where her youngest son is after he left her home many years ago. And her eldest son has to keep reminding her that his brother won't be returning back home. The second question I had was, how might the movie have been written differently to reflect a more realistic depiction? So the movie could have been written differently to reflect a more realistic depiction by taking accounts of real minorities to describe what they go through in their day-to-day lives. This would include being faced with the majority or those who are prejudiced against the in-group. And if this was the case, a lot of people viewing this movie could relate to what was happening to certain characters who fit that in-group. They did a good job of trying to make this as real as possible. We know the people who fit these descriptions of the minority characters in the movie can relate to a lot what is happening. So, does the explanation of the character's amnesia agree with what you know about the human brain? So, the explanation of the character's amnesia does agree with what I know about the human brain. Most people don't see things like prejudice or discrimination as wrong because they were raised in this attitude all their lives and were never told it was wrong to believe this way. A lot of the characters judged others based on their appearance and nothing else because that's all that they know. The officer stopped a black couple driving, and the couple was African American, and the officer was white. The officer stopped the black couple driving because their car had matched a car that was similar to a stolen one that was reported to the police. But obviously, the license plate that the African Americans had didn't match the other plates that were from the car that was stolen. So during the traffic stop, the officer used illegal force because they expressed that there was no need for the traffic stop to happen anyways. So the officer told them to step out of their vehicle. And he began to pat the couple down. And as the officer was patting down the woman, he sexually assaulted her. So a few days later, the same woman was involved in a car accident, and her car was flipped over. So the officer was the first person at the scene, and he tried to rescue her. So she soon noticed that it was the officer who sexually assaulted her, and she began to scream and tell him to get away, but he got her to calm down, and as the car began to catch on fire, he saved her life. And moments after he got her to safety, he began to look as if he knew what he had done to her was wrong.